Good morning. Continuing with deliberations of the speed of light. Today I'm going to derive an equation for the emergence of organization in space-time. And so I call this emergence space-time, and there are three matrices that we'll consider as part of this equation. So beginning with the first one, I'm going to start with the speed of light at the untransformed layer, which we had said is of course 186,000 miles per second. And with this finite speed of light, what we are going to experience is a past, a present, and a future, and there's going to be a connection between them. And further, since the lower limit of such a layer of reality would be the inverse of c, which is proportional to Planck's constant, we know that Planck's constant defines the quanta for energy to express itself in the smallest quantity possible, and being a finite number above some threshold, it allows matter to stabilize itself, and so we have a world where the speed of light is constant, characterized not only by past, present, future, and connection, but connection between different islands of matter, if you will. And the fact that when we begin to break into the quantum levels, we perhaps experience more of waves, implies that this constant, this quanta of energy is reduced, and c being inversely proportional to it means that the speed of light goes up. And so at some level, perhaps we can call this c to the n, c to the base n, meaning at some level removed from this layer here, we have the speed of light which is greater than 186,000 miles per second. So we project this trend and we hit a limit, and the limit we may say is where the speed of light is infinite. Now we had hypothesized that the worlds that are created by different speeds of light is fundamentally different. We've already seen this. In this it's more of a wave world, if you will. And here, where the speed of light is infinite, you perhaps would have an intelligence that knows itself completely in any space-time bound. And so we can then hypothesize that given that these are fundamental properties that we would see in this world of a finite speed of light, so past meaning that everything has been stabilized, so there's a presence to things. The present meaning that there is an energetic play of different powers, so it's perhaps this essence of power. The future meaning that it drives towards some seed or purpose or knowledge, and connection meaning that there's some relationship or harmony. So we see that the essence behind these four properties that we would experience in a world made of the finite speed of light would be presence, power, knowledge, harmony. So we could say that in this world in which light is moving at an infinite speed and where things know themselves completely, or there's one intelligence that pervades everything, the essential qualities of this are perhaps this presence, power, knowledge, harmony, whatever else it may be, but certainly it's these four. And there's a kind of a projection or a precipitation that creates this reality over here. So if we think about that projection or precipitation, what we're really implying is that there may be some intermediate level, let's call it c to the base k of speed of light, so some level k, where the reality at this world with the speed of light c to the k is a function of the reality at c infinite. And further, we may hypothesize that there's a precipitation that occurs between this level k and n, where the reality at Cn is a function of the reality at Ck, and similarly we may hypothesize that the reality at Cu is a function of the reality at Cn. Now the question is, how might we specify the dynamics of these realities that exist at these intermediate levels? And knowing, for instance, that at this world of the finite speed of light that we see around us, there is infinite diversity, but yet they all seem to emanate from some fundamental properties or essences that exist at every single space-time point in this realm. We may say that there's sets of this presence, or a set of power, or a set of knowledge, or a set of harmony that specifies a range of innovative elements. And further, as the question is, how does this become this? We can hypothesize that there's an intermediate function, and we can call it signature, which is the combination of elements from each of these sets. So you may have the set of presence, set of power, set of knowledge, set of harmony, combined in infinite different ways to create unique signatures that then become the essences of the various organizations we see here. And we can refer to this kind of precipitation as due to the speed of light. And the question is now, what's the interplay, or how does this influence emergence in space-time? So this specifies the realities, if you will, where space-time plays out. So if we think about what emerges in space, then thinking about this untransformed layer, we can say that there's the untransformed layer is determined by the dynamics, and we'll refer to some sets which we're calling x to the base u, where x is maybe one of these four bases here. And so everything we see around us, we may hypothesize is a play of these four fundamental dimensions, and they're untransformed. So the question is, how does the greater degree of transformation occur so that a different kind of emergence occurs, is intimate in space and occurs through time? So let's think about this emergence. So if we were to break the pattern that existed in each of these fundamental dimensions at the untransformed layer, then perhaps this layer would become more active. Let's just call this meta level 1 for simplicity. Then we're saying that at this layer we have the essence of organizations or signatures that become active. And further, if these signatures become extremely strong so that they become a force, an independent force, then we perhaps allow this layer to become active here. So there's a further transformation of this set x to the u, and the dynamics over here at meta level 2 would be specified by these sets that we had described here. And so these are sets of architectural forces. So these are forces acting much more broadly, if you will, and with much greater impunity. And we may hypothesize that as these sets themselves become impersonal, that we break into this fundamental layer where intelligence is all pervasive. So there's the notion of omniscience, omnipotence, omnipresence, omniloving. And so we have this meta level 3 becoming active, where we have the essence behind all this that emerges. And we're saying that this is some kind of, this specifies the space dimension, because it implies that implicit in any space is this possibility of emergence. But the question is, how does it emerge? And here we can consider the time aspect. So thinking about when M3 may be active, we can hypothesize that M3 is active at all time and beyond time. And at some point, M2 becomes active, and M2, meaning that the play of this in the transformation of this initial set X to the U becomes active. We can hypothesize that perhaps from the time of the Big Bang, we call that 0, and any time after that to infinity is when M2 is active, so these architectural forces are active and perhaps grow themselves. That's a different discussion. And we may say that these signatures M1 become active after these architectural forces are active, so at some point greater than 0, but between infinite. And here the question is, when does U become active? And if we consider U to be the kinds of organizations that we are and that we see around us, then certainly that means that at least cellular structure needs to exist. And if we think about when cellular structure emerged, it's at some time where T was greater than 13.8, 10 to the power of 9 years. And so the whole notion here is of emergence. And so there's a kind of a transformation that we're implying there. And so when we're talking about cellular structure, we're making an assumption that the transformation that occurs is kind of automatic, and therefore the direction of transformation is from M3 to U, whereas when we have individuals and more complex behavioral organizations appearing in time, so where time is greater than 13.8 to the 10 to the power of 9 years, we have a reversal in the direction of transformation, which is more from U to M3, and this matrix, if you will, specifies the time dimension of emergence, and the rate of transformation may change. We have a separate function here, TC, which is the transformation function, and perhaps some other time we can discuss that in more detail. But as that rate proceeds, this initial set here becomes a transform set. And so this emergence in space-time specifies how this initial set becomes this transform set, but there could also be, this could be a recursive function, if you will, because if we were to consider some time a little bit out from this time now, then we could say that the basis xu itself is a previous xt. And so what we have here then is an equation for space-time emergence in which the speed of light plays a fundamental part, and then based on the realities that I created here, there's different kinds of emergence that's need to be considered in this space-time continuum, which I've broken out into two separate matrices here. And the object of emergence, of any emergence, is to move an initial set xu, which is a set that might be an untransformed set along one of several dimensions, here are the 4 different dimensions, into a transformed set x to the t along those one of 4 different dimensions, but it's has more capability in it due to the action of these meta layers that now are informing how the dynamics in it itself is going on.